We're back.
We are back, bitches.
Back
And ready to party.
on the road again.
But yeah, life is life, and
The girls have been good.
I was gonna say that. But we're back, and we're excited to, well, I mean, as excited as you can be to talk about this kind of stuff, but we're excited to be back.
We are. I have nothing else to say about that.
Yeah, so let's just get into it. Coming back with a bang. This is going to be quite a heavy one. So, trigger warning, this does involve the death of a baby. So if you don't want to listen to that, that's totally understandable. Maybe just click out and hopefully come back on the next one. Hopefully there's a next episode for you to listen to.
Wait to see you again.
Yeah, what she said. But yeah, it is quite a heavy one. And moving on. So let's get into it. Today we're going to be talking about Dina Rodrigues,
Okay.
who's just the absolute worst. We don't like her.
Rodrigues.
Well, yeah, I would imagine with Rodrigues, the surname.
Dang, we have something in common.
Yeah, unfortunately. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the murder of the 6-month-old baby Jordan Lee Norton that happened in 2005. And the story starts with, this is a bit inconsistent with her age, but she was either 24 or 25 with Dina, who was dating
The
a man.
baby was 24 or 25.
Good. So Dina at the time was dating a man called Neil Wilson. So I'm going to be quoting her quite a lot because a while later she kind of wrote out her side of things.
Okay.
And it's kind of infuriating, so I wanted to include a lot of it because
Where is this? Where are we?
in Cape Town.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So speaking about her relationship with Neil at the time, she said, "The relationship which I had with Wilson was the first truly serious emotional and physical relationship in which I had ever been involved. I had never in my life before been obliged to cope with intense emotions such as those I experienced while involved with Wilson, whom I regarded as the person destined to share life with me as my partner." It gets worse.
But obliged to feel what
I think
serious
okay, so this
emotions
was like
are?
part of like a court process thing. So
Okay.
obviously she's trying to sound like,
Yeah.
you know, use the fancy words, if you will. So she also said, although he was a month or two younger than I was, Wilson was already a worldly wise, knowledgeable young man.
What has a month or two got to do with anything?
Who-
Like, that doesn't make a difference.
No. He took the lead in our relationship in every way. He had a wide experience of women and was an experienced lover. I was, at the least, deeply infatuated with him, probably to an unhealthy extent. I believed that my feelings for him evidenced true love, and I did not know, even now, if my belief was wrong.
This is like taken straight out of Twilight.
Yeah. Or like a Mills and Boons book.
Yeah.
And lastly, she said, I believed that we were destined to be married. I could not imagine life without Wilson. I was happy until I heard of the existence of Wilson's illegitimate child.
Oh, shit.
And I just like... Anyway, a lot of the stuff that she quotes, I feel like we need to talk about at the end once we've
Okay.
gotten the whole story. But I think that she's trying to explain the relationship in that way very much to justify what she did.
Yeah.
But it's like... no, like there's no justification for it in the first place, but also...
I mean, she's obviously the one that killed the baby.
Yeah. No, don't spoil it. Don't
Well,
say that.
But, like, clearly we don't like her.
No, we don't like her. I just feel like the way that she talks about him is very... I mean, you're 24, you're 25, whatever.
Yeah.
You're an adult. It's not like... The way she describes it reminds me of how teenagers talk about being in a
Yes.
relationship.
Yeah, that's why I said
And
Twilight.
she wrote this, like a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So, well, not like a couple years ago, when this happened.
Okay.
So she was
what
even...
year did you say this was?
It happened in 2005.
Okay.
The murder. Okay, so initially, Dina did know about Neil's previous relationship with a woman called Natasha Norton, and she kind of said in the beginning she was jealous about it, but she coped with her emotions. That's her word. She coped with it. But then, like I quoted earlier, she said when she found out they had a child, it was like that was the end of it for her, and she was.
And that part's understandable.
It's understandable, but also, anyway. Let's
Yeah.
before we sympathize, let's listen.
Sympathize. We gotta realize these real lies.
Oh, jeez. She said that when she found out they had a child together, it had a profound effect on her, and she became obsessed by thoughts of getting rid of this child.
Oh.
In my efforts to seek ways to release myself from the emotional pain from which I often suffered, I began to plot the child's demise in my imagination. So I just want to say, yes, it's understandable to get really pissed off that your boyfriend lied about having a child with someone else, with his ex, but your brain should not jump to the child's demise. It should jump to being angry at your boyfriend, and that's where it should end, not...
I thought you were going to say it should jump to his demise, and I was like, that's not exactly.
We're trying to stay in the logic realm here.
So, yes.
Which is like, how bonkers is that she's thinking about a 6-month-old baby as the problem, like that the baby itself being the problem, and not the fact that it's
like
I don't like that sentence. Really messed me up, that she began to plot the child's demise in her imagination, and like said that she became obsessed with it, thinking about getting rid of this baby was consuming her. That's so not normal.
Disgusting.
It is.
Like, it's obviously it's the same for everyone. Like, child crimes are just like unfathomable.
Yeah, it's not something you can wrap your brain around. But
like, it's so, the baby is currently at this point like an inanimate object to her. It's like, oh, he bought this box with his girlfriend.
Yeah, it's like, it's a problem I need to get rid of. It's not a human being that, it's crazy. It's crazy. So she says she came to the unspeakable, cruel decision that the only way to solve our problem was to kill the child. And also, what really pisses me off in the previous quote, where she says, in my efforts to seek ways to release myself from the emotional pain from which I often suffered. That is, like, this is textbook narcissism. Like, she's like, for me to release myself from
so much pain,
therefore I must kill this child. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And it's also, when I researched this case, I honestly thought initially that she was a lot younger, because like you've heard of cases in a similar way where kids who are in love like will end up murdering their families or whatever to be with each other, and even that's very hard to think about. But when you're a teenager, it's like all consuming, and you like fully in this relationship, whatever, and you can sort of, in your brain, in your child brain that's not even fully developed, you justify it. But she was 24, 25 years old.
And he was the same age as her. So that also, like, it's also different when there's like an older influence. Like, if he was a much older man.
Like a power imbalance. Yeah.
Then it would sort of make her childlike. But for them to be the same age and to still have this childish dynamic is so bizarre.
So this is now the decision she came to. So she wanted to start putting her plan into action.
How old was the baby when she found out that
That I'm not sure. Okay. I don't know what the timeline or what the period is between when she found out to what happens. Okay. But I think it's pretty quick, because she doesn't sound like she wastes any time. Like she's, I mean, she wants to get rid of her emotional demise or whatever she calls it. So now the planning part, she talks about how like she doesn't interact with criminals. So she didn't know how to go about this. So not knowing how to do something like this, because no one in their right mind would do something this horrific.
Oh, it's a pity she didn't know another baby killer. You know? That would have been so helpful.
So she goes to a taxi rank and asks around to see if anyone would be willing to kill for money. This is her tactic. And unbelievably it works. Okay, so she goes to the taxi rank and she's now asking around, which, like, imagine that scenario.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre. Anyway.
Imagine someone comes up to you, like,
randomly. How do you even, like, approach the subject?
Yeah.
Do you just go straight for it, or do you, like, start a conversation?
It's kind of like being... It's not... This isn't a comparison, but when you're somewhere random and someone offers to sell you like hard drugs. My sister and her boyfriend were walking down the street, and someone pulled up next to them, and he was like, "Would you guys like some nice cocaine?" And they said no, and then he was like, "Okay, have a good evening," and he drove away.
I mean, maybe that's how she approached
How do you
it.
just trust who you're asking? I don't know.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. It's very stupid. But and she said in her, I guess, confession years later, it now also seems unbelievable to me that I made the decision. Only an utter fool and a lunatic would go to a public place and openly seek a killer for hire. And that's probably the only time I say, yes, I agree with you, Dina. I agree. You are an utter fool. A fool again, you
She's
are.
She's like, oh, you know, hindsight is 20/20. I should have done it differently.
It just seems unbelievable to me. Like,
the fact that I completed the crime, not so unbelievable.
No. The fact that I went to a taxi rank, a public place, and was like, yo guys, who wants to go for me? So, unfortunately, she did find people willing to do this in exchange for 10,000 rand.
What?
10,000 rand. And 4 men ended up getting involved. So, I don't know what the situation was in terms of splitting the money, but if that's the case, you're each getting 2,500 rand to murder a baby.
What?
That
is no.
Yeah. But I don't know, like, there's no details on the dynamics of whether she just found one person and they recruited or what the situation. All I know is she paid 10,000 rand for this exchange.
Oh my gosh.
Which is not a lot of money.
No, that's nothing.
No amount of money is worth that, but I can imagine when you hear about cases like this overseas or whatever, they pay like a shit ton of money for people to do this sort of thing. And I mean, 10,000, I haven't done the exchange, so I don't know what that is, but it's not a lot of money.
No.
So on the 15th of June 2005, 4 men posing as delivery men from a courier company entered the home of baby Jordan in Lansdowne, Cape Town. So that's where we are. The 4 men, who I'll refer to by their surnames, and I do apologize if I don't get this pronunciation right. So there was Bobo Tiane, Guada, Mfazwe, and Sigenu. They approached the house, and Jordan's uncle, Dylan Norton, he answered the door. So it wasn't like a surprise or a shock to them, because the day before they had gotten a phone call saying that they were going to get a package delivered the next day and someone needed to be there to sign or whatever. So he wasn't like shocked when you opened the door. So at the time, it was only Dylan, so Jordan's uncle, and Jordan's nanny that were at the house.
Okay.
And Dylan was the one to open the door, and then they said, here's the package, can you sign for the waiver or whatever. So he went to the kitchen to go get a pen to sign, and when he came back, one of the guys was threatening him with a knife, and he could hear Jordan crying in the background. So he didn't actually know where Jordan was. Then they forced Dylan and the nanny into a separate room and bound them, and the man that was with them asked them where the safe was. So they were obviously thinking, okay, this is like a robbery or whatever. After a while, they couldn't hear Jordan crying anymore, so they thought that it was safe to go out and see what was happening. So they left the room that they were forced into, and Dylan went to his room to look for his phone to call the police, and he noticed Jordan lying on Dylan's bed with a pillow over her head, and when he lifted the pillow, he noticed blood all around her neck.
Oh, Lord.
So that is the crime. The horrible, horrible crime. And now we're going to get into the trial, which goes into a bit more detail about it, but I'll also just give a warning where it gets a bit graphic.
I wonder if part of her deal was mentioning the safe. Like, I'll give you 10,000, but there's also a safe, and he has money and jewelry or whatever.
Possible, yeah. I think it was more like, actually, I don't know, like maybe they just wanted it to look more like it was just a robbery and whatever gone wrong, or it was just these men were there, why not just take the opportunity?
That is the stupidest robbery gone wrong situation. Like, oh no, the baby attacked. We need to
Yeah, it's really horrible. Shame. I can't, being the uncle and the nanny and you can't do anything. It must have been really, really horrible.
Oh, and to think that when the baby stops crying, they, in their minds, they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Safe to come out, no more distress.
I read that he thought that they had taken Jordan. That's why he rushed out to go get his phone and he ran out to go look outside and didn't see them. So then he ran back into his bedroom, and that's when he saw her. Yeah.
Sure.
So all 4 of the men, along with Dina, were convicted of the murder of Jordan Lee Norton. The trial went on for 15 months. I don't think I've ever heard of a trial going on for that long. It's like a year and 3 months, if you can do the maths. Okay. That's long.
I don't think that's long.
That is long.
I think trials go on for long.
But since I've written this down, I've obviously listened to a lot of true crime since then, and it's always like it went on for 3 months or whatever. Like, it's not that long. I mean, this is a massive case, and it's a lot of people, but they were all trialed together. But like, still.
They were trialed together. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. In my head, trials are always like a bajillion years.
Yeah, I suppose so. Anyway, I thought that was long. So,
well, you're wrong.
Well,
I just
subjective. Okay, so Segenu, who was the youngest at the time, he was only 16 at the time of the murder. 16.
Is he the youngest?
Yes.
Did you just say that?
Yes.
Okay.
16.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And the way I understand it is that initially he pled not guilty.
Yeah.
And then his mother encouraged him to tell the truth and plead guilty. So like, and that just shows you this 16-year-old was so traumatized by what happened. His mom had to like push him and encourage him to actually tell the truth. And that's when the details came out in court. So
like 16-year-olds are so impressionable. Like, it's so easy to get a 16-year-old.
This is what we're talking about just now, though. Like, a teenager's brain is not fully developed. It's not, they don't think rationally and they don't act rationally. And the fact that everyone else involved in this case are adults. Yeah. And it's like, it's just, I don't know.
And also, it's so easy to get, like, you're an adult and you need someone to do, like, a little skivvy work for you. And you're like, here's a 16-year-old. Hey, 16-year-old, I'll give you X amount cut. And he's never gonna see, like, they're so easy to play.
Yeah.
And
it's really horrible.
That makes me, I know, like, controversial thing to say, but, like, that also, in my mind, makes him a bit of a victim to be, like, pulled into that situation.
But also, I don't know, I mean, it could have been a situation of he went there knowing exactly what they were going to do, or it could have been that the person that recruited him said, we're going to go rob this place, and he didn't know. I don't know those details, so it's difficult, but yeah, I mean, you're right, it's a lot easier to manipulate a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
So just another trigger warning, this is where it is I'm just going to explain kind of what happened with Jordan's death and then quote what Segenu said about it. So just, you can skip literally like 30 seconds forward if you don't want to listen to it. So he said that he was told by one of the other men to take baby Jordan from the nanny and strangle her in another room. But Jordan started to cry, and he said that it reminded him of his little brother and he couldn't do it.
No.
So he went back to Bobotiana and said, I can't do this. And that's when Bobotiana took Jordan and, quote, put his finger in the baby's mouth and cut her throat.
That is so vile.
Yeah. And what I kind of get from the situation is that Bobotiana was kind of like the, I won't say leader, but he, I think, took, I don't know.
Control of the situation.
Yeah, so my thinking is maybe he's the one who accepted in the first place and recruited everyone else.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he also, Segenu said that he even like showed them the knife with the blood on when they were driving away.
No, that's disgusting. Like just like the mental, that's such a crystal clear picture in my brain right now. That's so disgusting. It's just like horrific and how?
It's like you can't like, we can't wrap our brains around it. Even like saying it out loud is like one thing, and you can be horrified by it, but when you actually think about what that means and what your brain has to do to actually carry that out is, I don't know how you get to that point.
Like is they just, I don't know if it would make sense. I'm thinking, this is so bad, I'm thinking of Vampire Diaries. I'm so sorry.
I just,
they can turn their emotions off.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just thinking, is it a lack of emotion that makes you do this? Or, like, an extreme emotion, like, on the other end of the scale that would help you do this? Like,
I think that when you talk about serial killers, obviously it's different for everything, but, like...
You sounded like you said surreal.
Serial killers.
Serial killers.
I think that most of them act from... Like, then you have to look at, like, the case specifically, but either that's just that they are literally sociopaths who don't have the emotion of, like, remorse or whatever, and then some of them have very heightened emotions from what they're getting out of killing.
Yeah.
But I think there's also something to be said for murders and violence that takes place in South Africa being something completely different. And when you look at something like this where it's for money and there is an imbalance of power, Dina being a white woman and these being underprivileged black men and children, I mean the one is 16 years old, I think.
And then on top of that, the child being a baby girl. Is the child not a baby girl?
Yeah.
It's a baby girl.
Yeah. I don't know, it's a difficult one. Like, I think to do something like that, I go to, you can't have any emotion because you can't do that. You can't, like, you just can't do that. You would automatically feel the way that the teenager felt. You would see this baby, be like, okay, shit, I have to do this now. And then, you know, fuck, the baby cries and you're like, shit, this is a baby.
Yeah.
And then you can't do it. And this guy just fucking comes in and does that. So it's either that or it's like the overwhelming emotion of desperation for whatever he wants or goes through, that he needs the money. And I'm not trying to justify that either. I'm just saying I think it could be either or. And it's a very different dynamic when you're looking at something like this versus, like, I don't know. I don't even know if that's all right. But either way, it's just really, really horrific what he did and what they did. So, moving on from that.
So grotesque.
Evidence was put forward that proved that Dina was the one to come up with the courier company scheme. And they were telecom...
I knew it.
Yeah, you get paid. With telecom phone records proving that calls had been made to the Norton House, like we said, where they said you'll be receiving a package, from her workplace.
The calls coming from inside the house.
If you're doing this, don't call them from
really
your work.
Stupid.
Well, she is really stupid.
Yeah.
Anyway,
imagine at work they overhear you like planning this thing and like, oh, we're coming to make a delivery, and they're like, you're our secretary. Like, you don't make deliveries.
and also she took the Wavell from the company.
Oh.
So her thumbprints and her handwriting were on the Wavell that they left at the scene. Dumbass.
Cool.
Which, I mean, great, because it got her, you know, got her week.
It got her got.
It got her got, you know, she got got.
She got got.
So I read that Neil, the boyfriend involved in all of this.
Yeah, his baby, right? This
his
is
baby with the ex, yeah. I read that initially he was kind of defending Dina and was like still on her side.
What?
But then throughout the trial switched and then was like very much with with Jordan's family and then he decided to testify against Dina. I don't know how true that is. I don't know if the media kind of just read his emotion the wrong way or whatever the case was. But it did end up that he testified against Dina, and he said that she phoned him the day of the murder and told him Jordan was dead and that she had, quote, paid 10,000 rand for it to go away.
So she just upfront told him that, and then potentially he was on her side for a while.
Yeah, but I don't know. I wouldn't read too much into that.
Okay.
I think it's also complicated because for him to testify, like, shit, I mean, I wouldn't want to get up on the stand and talk about that, and because I mean he's also in the middle of it, and there must be a lot of complicated emotions with that. But I mean also the trial was 15 months, so I think at some point you have to detach from that almost. But I mean, like, also for her, the again show of narcissism that she phones him up on the day and is like, you know, I've taken care of it, paid 10,000 rand, the problem's gone. She must be so detached from
Delusional.
reality. Yeah.
How his relationship with this other woman, were they still together?
No.
Okay.
No, it was an ex-girlfriend.
Yes. So it was
Did
like,
I not say that?
probably, maybe you did.
Well, yeah, so Dina and Neil were dating, and then
Yes.
at some point in their relationship, she found out about the ex, Natasha,
Yeah.
Jordan's mom.
Yes.
And then, I don't know what the time was, but then after a while, she found out about the baby.
I, in my head, this whole time, turned it into a mistress situation.
Oh, no. And that's the other thing, like, this mom, there was no...
Yeah, it
like,
was
she
an
wasn't
ex-girlfriend.
even... Yeah, it was an ex-girlfriend, and... I mean, what the hell? You're not even involved with this man.
Oh my gosh.
And his now new girlfriend murders your child. It's too much. It really.
It's too much.
It really is just, yeah.
That just made now the things have clicked in my brain, and it's way worse. Like, I thought this was a mistress situation. I was like, oh yeah, she's angry with that.
No,
like,
that's what I'm saying. She's
not
not.
an ex.
She's not like living in the world. She's not here on this plane of living. She's. I don't know. She's not with it. She's. I mean, Dina. Not, I'm just.
That took me a second.
She's really, really angry, this woman. Okay, so the judge took 3 days to deliver the judgment, and he sentenced Dina, Bobotiane, and Fazwe to life imprisonment, and the other two were sentenced to 15 years for the murder and the robbery, because they actually did end up taking the safe, which had a gun in.
Okay.
So I'm not quite sure. Not a lot is said about Mfazwe, but he was also sentenced to life imprisonment, so my thought is that he must have been...
quite involved.
Yeah, but I don't know how. So Guada was released in Jan of 2017, and Segenu, which was the 16-year-old who testified, he was released in Feb of 2018. So they were the ones that were sentenced to 15 years. They didn't even serve the 15 years. I think they served 8, something like that.
But the teenager served 2 years less than... 2 years more than that other guy.
1 year.
What you just said, 1 year.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the... there was like a whole thing where it was very much like... Because when they were released, it was like... Goodness. The people don't come out and say it. Like, they've been through the system, and they wouldn't be releasing them if they weren't like fit to be out in society again. But it kind of sounded like they were making a show of the fact that they've like tested them to be humans again. And it was like, that's not how it works. Like, you do need to serve your time and
testing.
Yeah. Anyway,
they click the "I'm not a robot."
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not a murderer.
So Dina went to jail in Worcester. And obviously she tried to appeal her life sentence, because what the hell?
Heck.
So this is where that whole, like, where all these quotes have come from. Because in her appeal, she confessed to everything, and she said some, she said some very infuriating things that we should come back to. But we've basically already gone.
I want it now.
And she, so in jail, she's living her best life.
Yeah.
She completed her degree in education in 2012 and became a teacher at the prison in Worcester. She also graduated from a computer literacy and life skills program at Polesmore. So she moved to Polesmore. That was in 2013. And as of quite recently, I think it was this year, it was an article earlier this year, people say that she's doing well in Polesmore and she's become a hairdresser. So,
oh, babes.
Yeah.
Do you know, I love it. I thought about making an appointment with her recently. It's weird that you brought this up.
Coincidental.
So crazy, but I actually like my hair a little bit longer now. And then, I have nowhere else to go with that story. She studied education.
Yeah.
Did she educate people?
She became a teacher in the prison.
Oh, for other adults?
I think so, yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah, no, she should not be around children. And then there was also this whole period where, because her appeal was obviously denied.
Denied.
And then there was like a weird time where they were kind of saying she will probably be eligible for parole like after a certain period that she served this amount, but then they would never say what that amount of time was. It was very strange. But literally this year they've confirmed that she'll be eligible for parole, a parole hearing in 8 years' time. So not even guaranteed she'll get it, but at least have a hearing.
Yeah.
Which to that I say, nah. Like you're not getting out. No. And that just like again, narcissism, and I just feel like I get that every prisoner is going to take the opportunity to appeal their sentence, especially if it's a life sentence. But she deserves it, and she should not go anywhere.
She thinks that she's the queen.
She thinks that she's the queen, and we're sorry people. She can catch me in a little high heel. Okay, so that's that.
I just love that she's a hairdresser.
Yeah.
I wonder what her signature cut is. Do you have photos of her?
Yeah, I'll show you.
Okay.
So this next section I just titled "Let's Chat," because it's some of the stuff that she said in this confession.
Let's chat, ladies and gentlemen. You have entered the "Let's Chat" segment.
What did they say? Listener discretion is advised. Okay, so in this whole confession thing she wrote, it was a very long confession. I can't remember the exact amount of pages, but she wrote she had a good time. So,
dear diary. So, let's take it back to 2005.
So this really grates me. She said that, Dina explains that she experienced the, quote, unsophisticated emotions of an immature and inexperienced woman, adult in body but not in mind.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty accurate.
But she was 24, 25. You can't say that for something. You are very sound of mind at 24, 25 enough to know that this is bullshit. Like, you can't blame this on being immature at 25 years old. And that really pissed me off because, again, it's like, if you look at someone who's been incarcerated at like 13 for murdering someone, years later they'll be like, actually, I was a child. I did not know what I was doing. My emotions, blah, blah, blah. She was not far off from our age. Like, that's not an excuse.
No, she was a full adult, but true that she was super unsophisticated in her thoughts.
Yeah, no,
idiot.
For sure. But like, just and then she says, and this was like part of her thing about being immature and whatever, I had been protected and shielded throughout my life by my family, the members of which have a very old-fashioned attitude towards women in general, and unmarried daughters in particular. I had lived a very sheltered life. So now she's blaming it on her upbringing.
What? I lived a really nice life, so...
Well, she's saying it was an old-fashioned attitude about women and especially unmarried daughters. So in order to desperately hang on to the possibility of maybe marrying a man, you had to murder a child. I just...
that makes
such a logical jump, Dina.
Sense. Dina? What do you have to say for yourself?
You're done.
But so, I can't get over that one. That one makes no sense.
No. But she can't take responsibility. On one hand, she's like, I don't know how I came to this decision, blah, blah, blah. But also, I was so immature. But also, my upbringing. But also, like, just fucking shut up and just be like, I did the worst thing imaginable and I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
Too bad, too sad.
And like, to be talking about like being sheltered, when you're a sheltered person and you see or hear about murder, you're like, holy shit, I'm too sheltered to fathom this.
Yeah.
You don't go, I'm so sheltered, I can commit murder because I don't know, like, what does that even mean?
She don't make no sense. So, she said that the reason for her appeal was because, according to her trial and her sentencing was marred by marred by irregularity. So she thinks that she didn't receive the legal advice that she should have. So again, just pointing the finger at something else. She said that the lawyers at the time may not have realized the extent of her emotional turmoil because she did not confide in them as much as she should have.
Oh,
so she didn't tell them about all her problems and trials and tribulations, and therefore they just didn't know how bad she was, and that's
maybe
why.
she hadn't brought up with them that she had such a sheltered childhood, but also they were like very weird about women, like very traditional.
Yeah, especially unmarried women.
Yeah, I don't think she told them that.
I wonder if people are going to get really irritated with her accent. Probably. So then the other thing was that so the court, after you go through the trial, the court requests a pre-sentencing report that helps the judge sort of like get everyone's last little bits and pieces, so that, and especially for the sentencing, so that they can make an informed decision. But she didn't comply with this, saying that she feared that if she had made the truth known, it would affect her chances of success on appeal. So she's literally saying, if I tell the truth, I'm not going to get an appeal.
Just wait.
And now in her appeal, she's saying, I should have done that because, I didn't tell everyone the full story and maybe it would have helped. Like, there is no logic. There's no goo. Goo.
She's like, I can't tell you, it's too naughty.
If I tell you, I'll never be able to get out of jail. Judge. Okay, so I have 2 last quotes from her.
Okay.
So this is a long one. The long one. You ready? It is only recently that I have been made aware that if I had made a clean breast of things before the trial court, and the learned judge had, as a consequence, come to know of the uncontrollable emotional turmoil, here we are again, which had caused me to act in such an out-of-character manner, he might well have imposed a sentence of less than life imprisonment on me. I am also now aware that if a psychologist or similar expert had given evidence concerning my immaturity and the uncontrollable emotions which I experienced before the murder in a pre-sentencing report such as the one the learned judge sought, I might well have received a less harsh sentence. There's another quote after this, but I feel like we should have a moment with that one.
I'm sorry, not sorry. Pleading immaturity is not the same as pleading insanity.
That's not a thing.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I was so immature, judge.
But she's literally like, she's saying if she had told the truth and been honest about how her emotions played into everything, it wouldn't have been as bad. Why do you think that? Like, your emotions still don't justify murder.
No.
The judge wouldn't have been like, oh, poor baby. Like,
she was so sad.
You can get 5 years, my girl. It's okay.
My girl.
But that's not how it works.
He wasn't like my girl. He was like, my girl.
Dina.
Dina.
So she says that now that she's matured and received counseling in prison, the enormity of the crime that she had committed and the consequences to those she hired has been brought home. And I ended it off by saying, Nuggle. Literally, it's the end of my thing.
Nuggle.
And that's the case of Dina frickin' Rodrigues, who I just think, obviously we haven't hid our feelings about this case at all. We cannot stay impartial.
What is there to hide?
But I just, I mean, this happened a long time ago. She's still in jail.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, thank the Lord. Idiot. But, I mean, she will have a parole hearing in 8 years, which will be interesting. I just think she was a very entitled...
Shame, she was quite immature.
Just a little bit immature.
Yeah, I don't think we can really judge her too harshly.
Yeah, maybe 5 years.
Yeah. At least she got a nice education.
And now she's cutting hair, What more could you ask for?
That's supposed to be a sentence.
But yeah.
You did a great job.
Thanks. And I feel like we should just end off saying that unfortunately there wasn't like everything fucking focused on this monster, so I didn't get to learn anything about Jordan. But
I wonder.
I feel like we must just have a thought for baby Jordan and her family and the mom and the uncle and the nanny and everyone. I mean the dad. That's also like I can't imagine the emotions and complications there. And
also, like, I'm sure the dad feels so much guilt.
That's what I wanted to say and didn't want to say, because he can't feel guilty because it wasn't his fault. But also, you must be like, I'm like, she was only in the scenario because but you can't think like that. So
horrible.
But at the end of the day, it was just completely senseless. Like, this
No.
is the epitome of like a senseless murder.
Mm.
It's really horrible.
I wonder if, like, in her whole thing that she's like, I was so mature, should have gotten less time in prison, blah, blah, blah. I wonder, like, if you came across any of this, I'd like to know how she approached the topic of the teenager that was also on trial. Because she's, like, saying she's so mature and she's so childlike, but there was an actual child.
I didn't read anything about that, but yeah, that's...
Like, she would I mean, obviously I'm speculating, but she was probably not lenient on him. She was like, oh yeah, he did it.
And also, like, in her last quote there, she says something about only now, after years in prison and counseling, she's realized the, like, enormity of what she did, but also to the consequences of the people that she hired. Like, how is it taking, like, you should have known what you were doing to these people was fucked up. Like,
Just as I thought.
Trash. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, super sad story.
Very sad.
But, yeah, I also just, like, there's, like, no lesson in this one. It's just, like, don't fucking do this.
Don't be Dina.
There we go. Don't be Dina. DBD. Don't be Dina.
Don't do what Dina would do.
Don't do what Dina would do. We hope you've enjoyed having us back. It's been a wild time.
It's been a time.
And we'll have another episode out soon, hopefully.
See you next June.
No good. No. Shame. The poor listeners.
Poor us.
But just a reminder, you can
follow us on Instagram.
At Horrified Honeys. Honeys with a U.
Send us
case suggestions or requests.
Yes.
And also for the You're Horrified series, if you have any stories. Another thing I wanted to say.
What did you want
Wait, let me finish my other sentence for the people. But for You're Horrified.
This is for the people.
You can send us any sort of spooky stories, scary stories that you've encountered yourself, or I don't know if you want to write on behalf of someone else. It can be anonymous, and we will tell your stories in the podcast. And I can't remember how to explain this. It's been so long. So it can be like, it can be spooky stuff that's more like ghosty, supernatural, or it can just be
sketchy shit.
Yeah, I mean, most of us have a story like that.
Unfortunately.
And you can email that to horrifiedhoneys@gmail.com.
Yeah. Honeys with the U, kids.
Yeah. What I was going to say as well is if you folks.
You people.
Not you guys. Let's not gender it, shall we? If anyone has like connections or
to the mafia.
To any of the cases that we do, or like extra information or any of that sort of thing, like we'd love to hear it. So if you can literally just DM us on Instagram or email us. But I think that's also would be super interesting to have, like, maybe someone knew her or knows something else about the case that we didn't mention. Like, send it in.
That reminds me, ladies and gentlemen, my first case that I did, Daisy DeMalca, there's a book out about it now.
Yes, ma'am.
Which I read and will not say anything further about. But you can buy it. It's titled Daisy DeMalca and the something about City of Gold and Criminals and stuff.
That's the exact title.
Yeah, and stuff, by Ted Buerta. And it's quite interesting to just, like, if you've listened to the case and you want to get more information or different information, then that's something that you can look at getting.
We're going to have to use one of our other sign-offs because I don't remember what it is.
And that's stay sweet, spooky.
No, there was something else.
Sweet.
Say safe. Sweet.
Safe. Sweet.
Spooky. Sweet, say spooky.
Stay safe, sweet, and spooky.
Bye.